Okay, everyone. Sorry, I'm still getting my camera adjusted, so bear with me. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, there we go. All right, everyone. All right, welcome, everyone. Good morning. Happy spring. Happy equinox. If you're in the room, please introduce yourself and say hello. Welcome to everyone who's new to practice um, to our Sunday service gathering. Um, and today we'll be, you know, um, doing moving through, excuse me, moving through Tara practice, mother practice, and then we'll take a break and then transition into Mahamudra. So I think mother practice will lead into Mahamudra, um, which is really one of the functions of deity practice is actually, particularly in Buddhist Tantra, is to actually lead into the nature of the mind. So we practice particularly wisdom deities um, because they introduce us to the nature of our minds, right? And that's the particular function of this class of deities, right? Wisdom deities. Wisdom deities are deities that arise from our own innate wisdom, our own nature of mind, right? They arise from, or we can say they arise from our Buddha nature, which is the expression of clarity and wisdom, spaciousness. Then you have our worldly deities, which are actual beings, beings like you and me, um, who are, well, there are different levels of worldly beings, but definitely there's the worldly beings, worldly gods, worldly deities, who quite powerful beings. They exist in alternative dimensions that connect to our dimension, and we can develop relationship to them. But they can be quite very much like us. They're not awakened necessarily, you know. So they can be, petty, or stingy, or have favorites, or do all kinds of stuff, And a good example of that is studying Roman and Greek mythology. When I was growing up, I would read that mythology. I would be like, who would worship gods like that? Who are just like petty and catty and vain and narcissistic. Like, what kind of world is this, that these are the beings who control everything? But that's a different class of being, a different class of worldly beings, of worldly deities. Then you have higher classes of worldly deities as well, that are endowed with much more wisdom and compassion, and love. Um, all these stories in Tibetan Buddhism, Tantra, about worldly dakinis, right? These really powerful female presence energies, and how some of them were very, um, they're very particular about how you approach them and how you spoke to them. And if you didn't respect them, then they would kill you. Um, then you have, of course, more compassionate and more beneficial dakinis and dakas as well. Daka is the male component counterpart. Because you have nagas too. That's they're considered kind of deities as well. And nagas are associated with, they're human serpent, human reptile. They're associated with nature, particularly caves and water, trees, things like that. And you can, and nagas are in the world. Um, I had a friend several years ago who had a particular talent of connecting to Nagas, or rather sensing Nagas in places, um, which was very strange for her, and she um, was able to study with other Tibetan teachers who helped her to make sense of that particular ability to see Nagas. They can be difficult um, to work with as well. Um, and sometimes not so much so difficult. Um, of course, we see these deities, all kinds of deities, in many different paths. Um, from um, West African traditions to Caribbean traditions, and to all over the world. Traditions all over the world. Um, it's very interesting. All this is very, very interesting. But when we get into Tibetan Buddhism, we tend to focus more on the wisdom expression of deities, and of course there are kind of worldly deities. And in Tibetan Buddhism, when you read and study texts, there's always prayers to local deities. And these local deities are, really worldly deities that protect different places. They protect the land. Of course, we see that again all over the world. Here in the United States, Native American communities maintain relationships to local deities. Of course, colonialism disrupted that relationship. And one of the things that was really moving about my teacher, Rola Rinpoche, is that he understood that relationship and did what he could to reestablish that relationship to the communities that Native Americans, were supporting. Because of colonization, they couldn't anymore. So at our monastery up in New York in Poughkeepsie, a lot of our daily practice and offerings were to local deities, to the local energies, whose worship had been disrupted by colonization, by the Dutch. I guess it would be the Dutch or the English in that part of New York. There's just interconnectedness, it's the interconnectedness of this body and interconnectedness of this body with the unseen world. And that's a part of what I mean about returning back to indigeneity. Like, what does it mean to return back to a belief and practice of the unseen world? How do we return back into relationships with the unseen world? The world of the disembodied, the world of the spirit, the world of energies, the multiplicity of dimensions. How do you connect to that? And how do you also further understand that we're nonlinear beings? That we're not just happening in this body, in this time, in this place, but we're happening across multiple times and places and dimensions at once, right now, in this moment. How do you hold space for that in the practice, And you don't get that. You don't get to that connection to the nonlinearism until you begin to, in this path, connect to the nature of the mind. And so you really begin to allow yourself to step into the space and the emptiness, right? And we're trying to do that as safely as possible, because there's tremendous risk to just stepping into the space, because we have to be trained to step into the space, right? We're not trying to erase our ego. That's dangerous, to erase the ego. What we're trying to do is understand the nature of the ego, to understand the illusionary quality of the ego. We're not trying to lose relationship with it. If we lose relationship with it, then we lose relationship particularly to this world. So if we try to do that now in this body, like if the ego was erased, then we wouldn't be able to function anymore. And that happens. These are stories that, these are things that actually happen within past and traditions. Of course, we don't talk about it because I think that we have created other names for that. And I think some of those names are, or the ways that we identify that state, is by calling people insane. For instance, I think sometimes, different ways that some of us are diagnosed, with different, like, mental illnesses, is the best way that we know how to relate to. Well, that's all very common. I'm getting way too wordy on this. Basically, sometimes we begin to awaken to these multiple ways of being and multiple levels of consciousness, and we don't know how to integrate that, in a way that still helps us to function in the world. And when we don't know how to do that, then, we come along and say, oh, that person's schizophrenic, or that person's, and so forth and so on, right? Or we call people crazy, right? Um, and then you have to step back and say, well, is this person actually, like, crazy, or are they having a different experience that they're trying to integrate? And there we go. That's the complexity of all of this, right? None of this is easy and straightforward. It's not black and white. It's very ambiguous, and so it just takes practice, and it takes the guidance of a teacher, and it takes communities, all these different things working together to help us understand the experiences that we're having. And I've been, very fortunate too, because I've always, looking back now, I know that I've always been guided, and I've had a lot of support from the unseen world. Even when I really wasn't connected or having a sense of that, that every decision that I was really, really making was guided by something. And I really began to see that when I started practicing Buddhism and Dharma. And, like, when I started doing that, I started looking back and looking at all the small things that happened that led me into the practice. And they were all very particular things. And I just found myself completely amazed by that. But it requires us being open to the guidance, as well. And initially it seems very unclear. It seems very ambiguous. It seems, that kind of guidance is really supported by space. So you get this incredible amount of space. So it's like you're wandering around this wide open field, and at the same time you're being guided, but you don't understand that because it just seems like everything's wide open, but then you come back and you start working to connect to your intuition. The intuition, of course, is this idea that connotes this experience of wisdom, clarity, of a knowingness, of this practice of feeling things out, like doing things that feel right, understanding all these experiences, particularly what's the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do. And the more you train in that, the stronger that intuition gets, and the stronger that, and the clearer the path gets as well. You know, um, at this point in my practice, because of this intense training I've done in my own intuition, which is, of course, been about connecting to deities, connecting to the land, connecting to teachers, communities, all this coming together, I don't find myself having to rely on a lot of things. Like people come to me and they're like asking me something about Tibetan Buddhism and, what's this practice? What's the need empowerment? What's going on? Who do I go and get this practice from? And it's stuff that like I don't really connect with anymore because I'm just living in my intuition, which for me, it means living within really the lap of the mother, the lap of the deities, when I need to know something, I just open and I get it. I don't have to necessarily, go find the teacher or go find the text, the practice text, or I don't necessarily have to go to India, Tibet to find, a community or a teacher that has this. I can just say, okay, I just need this. I just need to practice for Tara, and I open up and it just happens, and I get the visions and I get the insights. But when you really are just sitting within, I know there are different ways to describe this. When you're just allowing the deity to be present, you're just in a direct communication with the deity. You are the deity, in terms of wisdom, deities, you are. You are the mother, right? And at some point you start trusting that, and knowing that when you begin to trust that the instructions that you get are going to be very, 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 very subtle, very nuanced, and so you're learning to listen, but that listening happens as we learn to connect to stillness in our experience. The stillness is the key. The stillness is the heart of silence. That stillness. It's like you enter into the stillness. And it's, I don't know, in the stillness, here's another way of describing it. So it's like the Magic Eye books. For those of us I love Magic Eye. But the Magic Eye books, you open up a page of the book and you just get this like pattern. And you have to really focus on the pattern. And your eyes begin to adjust and rearrange the parts of the pattern into an image. So it's like a door opens, right? And you see into a deeper expression of the image. This is how we get into stillness. It's like we're just sitting and we're aware of everything, but that's the superficial, that's the surface of everything. But then everything shifts, like our awareness gets very fine, and that fineness, it slips us into the essence of everything, When you slip into the essence of everything, that's slipping into the stillness. And so, yeah, you still have an awareness of the phenomenal world, but you've attuned to the essence of the phenomenal world, and that's the stillness. And And that stillness is where transmission happens. So we talk about this word, transmission. I don't know why I'm doing air quotes, but we talk about transmission, right? Transmission, and again, um, we talk about, in Tibetan Buddhism, we talk about transmissions and and empowerment and this and that, which I don't do, but I do. I actually do give empowerments and transmissions. I just don't do it ritualistically, like where I come from, because I realize that like that's too complex, but transmission is simply channeling. Channeling is something that's done across all indigenous communities and have been done for as long as humans, have been present in this on this particular planet, in the world system. We all have different levels of ability in terms of channeling. Channeling again is touching into the stillness, and that stillness, it's a mind to mind connection, right? That stillness, emptiness, spaciousness is an expression of all the deities, of all the gods, all the goddesses. It is pure clarity itself, right? So you enter into that stillness, and then it's just a downloading, whatever you need, I think sometimes in Tibetan Buddhism tries to create, it's like in Tibetan, Tibetan Buddhism sometimes can be like McDonald's. How like McDonald's says, well, we invented all of this. We invented the hamburger. Well, the hamburger's been around for a while. You create a particular kind of hamburger, which is fine, but you didn't invent the hamburger, but it's fine. If you like McDonald's, you like McDonald's, right? But maybe there are places that have been around much longer. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there have been diners and all kinds of places. Delis for years and years before McDonald's. That's how we begin to understand that kind of part of Tibetan Buddhism. Is like, oh, like everything that's been taught has been done before in different ways in indigenous communities around the world. Here's just a particular way of doing it. I think that part of the reason Western practitioners struggle in Tibetan Buddhism is because we have no understanding of its relationship to the history of these modes of practices that's come before it. It's like, we get into Tibetan Buddhism. I mean, I was the same way. Like, don't get me wrong. I was on that same. I was right in that same perspective. I was like, oh, Tibetan Buddhism. It's like, no, Tibetan Buddhism actually didn't invent a lot of this stuff. It was a particular expression of these practices based upon a culture, time, and place. But that channeling, entering into that stillness, that's the transmission. Transmission is mind to mind transmission. So when you're doing an empowerment with the teacher, the idea is that your mind is meeting the mind of the teacher or of the deity. If it's a deity empowerment, the teacher becomes the deity, and you're asked to connect your mind or to enter into an awareness of the mind of the deity in that moment. And that's the transmission. So we say, oh, okay, that's the empowerment is permission. That permission is really just a way that you're being encouraged to believe in this, I mean, I say all this, I didn't get any of this. I mean, I didn't understand any of this until well after I became a teacher and just kind of started studying other religions and joining other lineages outside of Buddhism. And I was like, oh, this is what this is. We don't, in Western Tibetan Buddhism, In Vajrayana Buddhism, we don't do a good job in actually explaining what all this is, what it means and what we're doing. We just, in my training, I was like told just to show up and do it. You would just be like, you're just like, okay, whatever. I spent 3 years in retreat. I just did it. I just like did it. I didn't know what I was doing. I just did it. I just chanted, and just did the visualizations and all the ceremonies and rituals. And, I just did it, and then there was a change, but I couldn't tell you what changed. I couldn't tell you what was happening until years after that. I'm entering this month, well, in April, it'll be 10 years out of retreat for me. And of course, this 10 years has flown by, but like it's taken 10 years to actually figure out what it was that I did 10 years ago. And I think that Tibetan teachers, the Rinpoches particularly, don't even know how to talk about it because they've never actually been invited to explore other religions and other paths, particularly indigenous paths. Of course, we have these stories of, particularly Kagyu, the 16th Karmapa, the last Karmapa, having very strong connections to indigenous communities, Native American communities here in this country. But I don't know if there's been like this big dialogue that's come out, I think that's part of how patriarchy is maintained, in the practice and hierarchy. Is like you just don't you don't give people access to the mechanics of something. So you hold the keys, you hold the inner instructions for yourself, and you make people dependent on you and the lineage. And I just question, like, are teachers wanting people to get free, or are they wanting to remain important? And, so getting back to the practice of the mother and Tara, which is what we're going to do now. So having said all of that, we turn our attention back to, what I call the expression of the mother, Matara. Matara, how the mother expresses. This is the mother being the cosmic feminine consciousness that drives the universe, and this energy is energy and love coming together. And when we talk about the feminine conscious, kind of like divine feminine consciousness, it's not about gender. It's not about sex. It's not about social conditionings or anything. When we talk about the mother, we have to transcend this duality of male and female to understand that the mother is this phrase, this term that means everything. The mother is everything. That doesn't mean there's not a father. We can say the father as well. But the words, the language, you can't let the language keep getting in the way. I think the father is an expression of the mother. On that level of mother is also a transcendence of the binary as well. It's like when we say the mother, we're not excluding anyone or anything, because the mother means everything, and it's not tied particularly to any gender expression, but it is about the essence of everything, a mother, right? And then you can talk about the father, you can talk about the divine masculine, right? The sacred masculine, which I work on, as well. And I see the divine, the sacred masculine as an expression of the divine feminine. Again, it's not saying that women are better than men are better than women, because we're not talking about the binary here. We're talking about everything, the essence of everything. We're talking about the stillness itself, you know, the stillness taking care of all phenomena. That stillness is the essence of all phenomena. That essence is felt in everything. You know, it's felt in any object, in any phenomenon that we sense. It's that essence is always pulsating, it's always vibrating. You know, and another part of this too, when we enter into the stillness, it's a physical experience as well. So your body is also moving into the stillness. You know, often we connect to um, that experience. Well, the body. So another way of saying this, the body has to elevate its vibration. You know, so we vibrate on a certain energetic level to enter into the stillness, both with mind and body. We elevate the vibrations of the body, which means that entering into the stillness is something that can't be sustained, because the body can't maintain higher levels of vibration for a long period of time. You know, for those of you who do these practices, who already have this innate ability, you know that like you can only do it for a set amount of time, and then you're wiped. You know, you're just like, you're exhausted. You know, because the body, you know, particularly if you're not trained, if you're not training and doing practices, particularly yoga is a really good practice to train us into elevating the energetic body. If you're not doing any of that, this is like, can be excruciating as well. You know, that's why some of you, you know, after I practice with some of you in different places, like, you know, like Medicine Buddha or doing this, you know, you're exhausted because I've elevated your, you know, your energetic vibrations, you know, that take you and I bring you back. You're exhausted. It's, you know, this is very much like, it's like training. It's like training in the gym, training weightlifting. You're conditioning the body and the mind to move into these different states of being. You know, of course, the stillness is also the God's realm as well. That's the God's realm. It's the pleasure realm of that stillness, and it's sweet. It's very seductive. It's very sweet. You know, what we're trying to do is enter the stillness, get what we need, come back to the body. We're trying to do this in a really natural, very direct way. So we'll move into a little bit of practice. We're going to do some breath practice, pranayama, you know, do a little bit of chakra work. We're going to start, you know, work really on the heart center today. And noticing how the heart center, the heart chakra connects heaven and earth. You know, that's another part of our work, is to connect extremes together into the center, to connect heaven and earth, to connect the relative and the ultimate, to connect black and white, whatever it may be, together into practice, into a lived experience. So the heart chakra is like this energetic center that helps us to do that. Yeah. You know, I suspect that many of us are carrying a lot of brokenheartedness, not just from this week, you know, not just from, you know, the shootings here, the massacre here in Atlanta, on this land that I'm currently on. You know, many of us are carrying that heartbreak, but we're also carrying all the other heartbreaks, you know, all the heartbreaks of this past year and the years before that, the heartbreaks of our ancestors, the heartbreaks of past lives. What we experience now is a culmination of everything that's happened before, and that culmination becomes more brutal, particularly if we haven't been really working, to take care of our brokenheartedness. Um, Many of us, don't really understand the mountain of trauma and the mountain of pain. Um, that we have to work through. All of us have pushed it to the side or bypassed it or erased it. But the reality of all of this is it's like we have to metabolize everything in order to get free, like to enter into enlightenment, which is the recognition of the illusion of dualism. You recognize, oh, this is just an illusion and you're free. That's enlightenment, right? To get there, you have to metabolize trauma and grief. And you have to at least get to a place where you begin to understand that, oh, this is all an illusion. My trauma is an illusion as well. And you can't get to that realization until you've processed and moved through a lot of it. And then you start getting it. You say, oh, this is just an experience, right? And this experience is held within this tremendous spaciousness. If you don't have that perspective, then this is going to be impossible. So in my practice, for me, it's, one of the ways that I translate this into like an actual tangible practice is just by imagining over and over and over and over again, offering my brokenheartedness to the mother, which is the same thing as saying I offer everything to space, to emptiness, and to stillness, to lay it there. So let's do a little bit of practice, and then let's come back after practice and let's see if we have any questions or anything. I also want to say this too, as we start our practice. So, being in spring now, this is the season of the mother. Spring is the season of the goddess. So whoever our goddesses are, Astera, for me, Astera is a goddess of spring, the goddess of dawn, the goddess whom Easter is based on before Jesus was born and Jesus stole her holiday and her ritual festival. That's another drama talk. But spring is awakening. Spring is the goddess. And how do we allow ourselves to awaken? For many of us, I really wintered this winter. Like I really shut down. Like I closed down. I hibernated this winter. I did a lot of grieving this winter. I did a lot of dreaming and resting for the winter. And then now, as spring is awakening, I feel that energy returning, which for me is the same thing as saying that the goddess is returning. The mother is returning back to awaken. My body, my mind, the earth. And how do I tune in to this awakening? How do I really get into this? How's my heart awakened? And that awakening heart, how we see that as an expression of the mother awakening inside of us. So we're gonna do. I don't know. I want to do a couple of things in the practice, but we're never gonna get to it if I don't start. So here we go. So go ahead and just allow yourself to come into a position that feels appropriate for you. Let's turn our attention to motivations. What are your motivations or intentions for practice? Why are you practicing? Whom are you practicing for? And we're going to shift our attention into some breathing just for a bit. So as we continue, I really encourage you to take care of yourself, to do whatever you need to do to tend to whatever arises for you, and to always know that you have the agency to do that. But now shifting our attention to the breath, noticing the in breath, the out breath. We're going to transition now into just an opening chant for Tara, for the expression of the mother that we're working with, Matara. It's a basic chant, Om Matara Soha. So we're just evoking her name in this chant. That's all we're doing. Om Matara Soha. So Om Mother Tara. Soha. We, we call you. Okay? So we're just going to chant that a few times. Om Matara Soha. Om Matara Soha. Om Matara Soha. Om Matara Soha. Just inviting the mother into the space. We're going to shift our practice into beginning to do some earth breathing. So, earth breath. And the first phase of this earth breath, practice of really calling the energy of the earth into the body. We're going to get a little more specific. We're going to direct this energy of the earth into the heart chakra. Start awakening our heart chakra. And to begin with, shifting your attention into the earth. So connecting your attention to the energetic elemental expression of the earth, the land under you. As you connect to the earth, naming or identifying the energy of the earth as resonating with you, and just naming that energy. So you can call it the energy of stability or foundation, whatever it may be. How is the earth expressing itself for you right now? And when you've connected to that energy of the earth, returning back to the breath, we're going to start imagining that we're breathing down through the body. And so we can imagine the central channel that runs parallel from the root chakra up to our crown chakra. We imagine that we're breathing into that central channel and breathing down. So as we inhale, we're inhaling down. Imagine that the inhale is going all the way down through the body, through the central channel, out of the body, and touching into the earth. So the breath, as well as our attention, begins to touch the earth. And then just exhaling normally, just for a couple of moments. Now continuing. So as we inhale down through the body into the earth, when we exhale, when we start to exhale, and we're going to imagine that this exhale begins to pull the energy of the earth into the body. And now in this particular practice, we're going to actually pull this energy up into the heart chakra. So that breath actually releases in the heart chakra instead of releasing out of the mouth. Okay? So it's inhaling down through the body into the earth, connecting to the earth and the energy as we exhale, exhaling into the heart chakra and out of the heart chakra, allowing the energy of the earth to start collecting in the heart chakra. So one more time, breathing down into the body, into the earth, connecting to the earth. The exhale begins to pull this energy of the earth into the body, into the heart chakra where that energy begins to collect right there in the heart chakra. So continuing this for a few moments. And imagine that the heart chakra is being filled with this energy of the earth. And the heart chakra begins to awaken. Sometimes in my practice, I imagine that my heart chakra is like a sun that's getting brighter and brighter. And the rays and the warmth of the sun begins to fill my body with this awakening energy. So the sun is rising and opening and awakening within the heart chakra. And this is the spring, this is the return of the mother, this is the awakening of the body, this is the awakening of the breath. And soon you imagine that you begin to glow, your body begins to glow, to radiate this energy and warmth of the heart chakra as it's deeply drinking in the energy of the earth. We continue with the practice and we're going to chant Tara's evocation one more time. Really beginning to connect to the energy of the mother as it begins to awaken within us. Okay, again, Om Matara Soha. 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 So for a few moments, we're just sitting within this awakening energy of the mother inside of us, this radiance, this warmth. Allowing ourselves to be held by this energy. As we sit, we're going to move into our main mantra. Omtara Tutare Ture Soha. Omtara Tutare Ture Soha. So this is the main Tara of the main mantra of Green Tara that we apply to Matara. So again, Omtara Tutare Ture Soha. We'll begin to chant this, and then we'll move into a second visualization afterwards. A couple of minutes of chanting. Okay. But if you're new to chanting, just sit. You can just sit and just listen, continue to move through the breath, the visualization, allowing the warmth and the light of the mother just to be with you. Tare tu tare tu re so tare tu tare tu re so So moving further into the practice, turning back to this awakened, sun-like heart chakra, moving into this next part of our practice, I want you to imagine that you begin to feed in to the sun in the heart chakra, or how the heart chakra is a sun, this glowing sun in your chest. Imagine that you're feeding into the sun, just things that you're struggling with, the grief, the mourning, brokenheartedness, sadness, anxiety, fear, as you're offering these energies, these emotions into the sun of your heart chakra, that these things begin to essentially burn. They're just like burning within the brilliant light, love, care, deep earth energy of the chakra that we've been practicing with. Our grief is being just burned out within the light of this clarity, wisdom, and love. And that even the darkness that we feed into this begins to be replaced with light and clarity and warmth. Okay. So moving back into our mantra. O so aum tare tu tare tu re. So aum tare tu tare tu re. So So we're just going to go a little further into the practice. And you can choose to stay exactly where you're at right now in the practice. If you want to go a little further, we're going to turn our attention outward to the world now. And so as the sun is awakened heart chakra, which is also the awakening of the mother inside of us, is glowing and bright and full, radiating through our bodies and radiating out of our bodies, filling up this whole space, the whole world with our light. I want you to also begin to to radiate this energy, this light, into parts of the world that need the light, into people's grief and mourning. Radiate this light onto the paths of beings crossing into the spirit realm. Radiating this energy back into the earth to support the earth in its awakening in this season. Radiating this light into our ancestors, into this ancestral, transhistorical rage and trauma that many of us are experiencing. Radiating this light, eliminating, burning up all of the grief, all of the trauma, all of the darkness, all the sadness, all the isolation. Relying on this energy, this awakened heart chakra, this awakened mother energy inside of us to do the work for us. That is not me benefiting beings and cutting through suffering. It is the energy of the mother, the awakened heart center, right, that's doing this work. That this energy is burning away all of this karma of suffering and delusion and isolation. Or as we say, let your little light shine throughout the world. And we continue. So aum re tu re tu re. So aum re tu re tu re. So And turning our attention back to our heart centers, connecting to the earth again. Whatever tension or tightness that maybe has accumulated within the body or within your mind, I want you to inhale deeply into those experiences, dissolve those experiences, and then breathe that out. of the body and mind. And letting go. And so we're going to do just a short kind of sound practice. Now, this is just moaning. So we're going to just or just, you can call it moaning or whatever you want to call it. But we're going to just vocalize sounds. That is going to sound like moaning. And this is a way, the sound practice, in the same way mantras work, and a similar way mantras work, we're just using sound to begin to distribute energy throughout the body, throughout the chakras. So sound helps energy to move in different ways around the body. And this is going to help you. I want you to start doing this often. This is going to help you really distribute energy. When energy feels stuck somewhere, I want you to moan through it, to create sound. And that sound is going to create vibrations, or that the sound is a vibration that begins to connect to where that stuck energy is, and it's going to start dispersing, circulating that energy. Okay. And this is very natural. So when I do this practice, I do this every day. I just inhale very deeply. I just open my mouth and I just whatever sound comes out. Allow yourself to come to a natural kind of resonance with whatever you need to focus on. So I don't even actually focus on anything. I just allow the sound itself that I'm making to connect naturally and adjust naturally to where it needs to adjust to start breaking up and circulating energy. Okay. So we're going to do this for just 3 times. Okay. Anybody, it's not about matching up with me, in terms of pitch and chords and everything. It's just naturally allowing yourself to kind of allow sound to resonate with something in the body. Okay. So we'll begin. So just notice. Just notice how you're feeling after this, after you complete this round. And you can go as long as you want, absolutely. But just noticing how sound adjusted, where your attention was drawn to in the body. Noticing just the change in energy. And we're going to start doing this more as we enter into spring, and the practices, that you're sitting in with me on. We're going to start doing more of the sound practice and of course, get into a little more movement as well. Okay, so coming back into the visualization, I want you to just keep this energy in the heart center, just radiating, you know, as we leave the practice, as we transition out of the practice. All right. And so as we complete the practice, just I enjoy offering appreciation to different parts of my practice. Right. So I'm offering appreciation to the earth. I'm offering appreciation to my seats. I'm offering appreciation to my body. I want you to touch these things. I mean, it's some things you can't touch, but touching the earth or the floor under you, right? So touching the earth, thanking the earth, right? Thanking your seats, thanking your body, thanking the breath. You know, we thank our minds. Everything is our mind. Our mind is in here. This is our brain. This is mind is everything. Thanking our mind for being awakened, thanking our teachers and guides and lineages for these teachings, thanking this community and all the communities that we're part of. And thanking ourselves, our total self, our bodies and minds, thanking ourselves for our diligence and our effort to get free and awakened. All right. So thank you everyone so much for your practice for the first part of our time together. Um, for those of you who have to tune out and leave, please join us tomorrow night for Medicine Buddha as well, for the medicine of the Buddha um, as well. And we'll continue some of these practices as well. But I encourage you to continue the moaning, the sound. I keep saying moaning, but whatever. Um, I think it's going to be really helpful um, as we enter into this beautiful springtime that will still require work to get through. Absolutely. Um, so we're going to transition into our sit. Let's see if we can't take a 5 minute break for those of us who are going to come back for the Mahamudra sit. So let's take a 5 minute break so we can just, take care of ourselves as we continue practicing. Also get water. To please get water, please do some movement, please walk around, do some stretching. Just want to get energy moving. So as spring happens, there's a lot of dormant energy that's happened in the winter. Now, some of you have not. Obviously, the seasons have been different depending on where you've been. Obviously, but if you've been experiencing seasonal stuff like a winter and now a spring, it's important that you honor that transition as well. Okay. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. Um, and we'll see you soon. Okay. 5 minutes. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Let's go ahead and get moving to um, our meditation. So, just a little bit of an announcement. We've started this new practitioner group, um, and some of the feedback that we've gotten is that people just really need basic support in meditation practice, maybe outside of what Justin and I are able to do with these Mahamudra practices. So we're gonna, or rather, I um, will be offering just an intro level meditation, of course, based upon this first stage of Mahamudra, which is pretty much mindfulness, but shamatha, calm abiding practice, and we'll probably start offering that probably mid-April. Um, and it will be, that's the basics, just, I mean, well, we call it basic, right? But, I'm doing it, so it's going to be unique in particular. But a trauma-informed, um, inclusive kind of practice is as much as I'm able to do, you know. Um, and an abolitionist framework for practice. I don't know what that means yet, but that's what we're thinking about. Yasmin Saidullah, who's my co-writer, the Reverend Angel for Radical Dharma. We've been thinking about this together. We're trying to think about what does abolitionist meditation practice look like, and so I'm going to just have to take a step and try to figure that out. So I'm excited for that, absolutely. Um, so so that's going to happen um, mid-April as well. Okay. So moving into the practices begin. Of course, we always want to begin with the body, and what we mean by that is that just we want to invite our bodies to come into a position that is appropriate for us. So it doesn't mean comfortable. So I'm saying, I'm not saying go get comfortable. I'm saying, okay, what feels good for you to do an hour or so of practice with breaks. I know an hour is a long time, but we're going to take breaks. If you want to lie down, if you want to stand up, if you want to do walking meditation, doing the instructions is great. I've done that too. It's wonderful. You want to sit in your favorite chair. This is the great thing about online. We can just do whatever we want. And just checking in with the body and just noticing, okay, what have you found yourself into or discovered about how you're sitting and positioning yourself? And we can say this is the first stage of this practice of calm abiding, which is what we're focusing on now. Where's the body at? And of course, we're all in different places with our bodies, right? And so a lot of us can't actually have this level of attention towards the body because of accumulated trauma, both simple and complex traumas, right? That live in the body. So at best, what some of us can do is just acknowledge that we have a body, and that's enough. That's the practice, just to name, okay, there is a body. It is my body. I can't get to it, right? Because of the pain, the woundedness. But there is a body. Even when you're experiencing disassociation or disembodiment, Just naming that there is a body is practicing, even though you're not with the body in the moment. When you're ready, I encourage you to transition into reflecting on intentions. Why are you practicing? And who are you practicing for? My primary intention is always practicing to reduce harm for myself and for others. And to do that, I have to develop an awareness of my body, speech, and mind. So that's my intention, to develop an awareness of body, speech, and mind to reduce harm. Of course, when we develop space for body, speech, and mind, or awareness of body, speech, and mind, that awareness is the same thing as holding space for ourselves. When we hold space for ourselves, then we can hold space for the experiences of others. And therefore, we can say, oh, we have the space to say, oh, I wonder how my body, speech, and mind is impacting others around me. And when you're ready, I invite you to next shift into our gratitude and devotion practice. And this is, very important in the tradition of calm abiding. So we begin to reflect on something or someone we're grateful for, or just reflecting on all the kindness and the labor that's been offered to us. Allowing this energy of appreciation to awaken within the heart center primarily. Begin to soften that energy to awaken the heart. Gratitude is the experience of connecting, of cutting through this illusion of being individual and self-sufficient, beginning to experience our connectivity to community and to collective and to whatever expression of family feels appropriate for you to name. Also, our connection to lineage. What are we connected to? Who are we connected to? Realizing that we cannot survive without the support of others. And then, secondly, if you choose to move into this practice, is the practice of devotion. So we're reflecting on our gratitude for teachers, for lineage, for practice. Devotion, I think, ultimately is about the love that we're awakening for ourselves. So reflecting on all of that, allowing all of that to really begin to ripen. Right. So, having experienced this opening in our devotion and our gratitude, which again is the same thing, I think, I want us to just turn our minds, well, turn our attention into our minds, right? Just beginning to notice thoughts, emotions, and to notice the movement of thoughts and emotions, right? And calm abiding or shamatha, you know, which are expressions of mindfulness. We're not trying to figure out what the mind is. We're trying to just pay attention to the mind. There are many things that we can use to train this attention and awareness. But to begin with, just noticing just thoughts and emotions. Just to begin with, what are you thinking about? What are you fixating on? Right? Where's that anxiety and brokenheartedness or sadness? Or where's the happiness and the joy? You're just going through and just naming, saying, oh, there you are. Moving on to something else and saying, oh, there that is. Right? You can see it and name it. Oh, there's my happiness. There's my sadness. As you're naming, as you're seeing and naming, I wonder if you can allow yourself to experience things bit by bit. Of course, always being very careful. You know, if something's too intense, you turn your attention away from it into something that feels much more stabilizing and neutral. When we experience this material of the mind, it does open the door into physical sensation. So as you're moving through the stage of practice, just noticing how the mental experience may lead into a physical experience. Again, being careful about how you're transitioning back and forth, but again, noticing, naming, and experiencing. The experience is without thinking, without analyzing, but the experience is just being within the experience. How the experience begins to transcend language. So, working with this level of practice for a few moments. And so if you haven't already, go ahead and refresh your practice. Stretching, drink of water, readjusting your position. Okay. So the next stage of the practice, we're gonna move. It's gonna be a little different, but I want to offer this and see what your experience is. So we want to move deeper into stillness. If you joined us for Matar, we talked about stillness. We're gonna see if we can't kind of get close to that by doing something a little different. Okay. So as we've been experiencing the material in our minds and in our bodies, we are experiencing also holding space. So holding space means that we're not reacting. You're not reacting. In that non-reactivity, we're able to fully experience to be in these unarticulable experiences. Okay. So in this next part of the practice, I want us to offer even more space um, to all these experiences, and to even start moving into how you understand stillness. And stillness is it's I have to be careful with the words, with language here, but it's stillness is what lies beneath or beyond the surface experience that we're having. Um, so this is so we can call this insight practice. So this is insight of Vipassana, but we're going deeper into the experience of something and landing or touching into the stillness where everything just kind of slows down, stops, kind of floats. And there can be an experience of one pointedness of samadhi for some of us. So samadhi is when we hold something within our attention, we stabilize on that thing really intensely, really strongly, in a way that we kind of get some distance from ego. So the distance from the ego creates this timelessness, this sense of non-linear experience. The further away we get from ego, the more non-linear we get. So that non-linear practice in this case refers to a timelessness. So we lose track of time, as time is a concept, right, that we're creating. And ego is a part of that creation of time. Um, and I know this is really complex. And at the same time, if this feels appropriate for you, I want you to also choose an anchor, an object for the meditation. So this is the anchor can be important here because the anchor can hold part of our intention to keep us from drifting into the totality of space and emptiness and samadhi that some of us may have the capacity to do right now. Okay. So, in terms of a process, so I would encourage you to actually choose an anchor. If you're going to choose an anchor now. The anchor can be the weight of the body making contact with the seat. If your feet are touching the floor, the contact of your feet on the floor. The anchor can be an object that you're seeing, a smell, a sound, something. Just any anchor. For me, the more tangible and solid the anchor is, the more stabilized I feel in the practice. So I often just use the weight of my body as an anchor for these practices. That helps me to stay in the body, to stay anchored, right? So we choose an anchor, and we're not resting 100% of our intention in the anchor, but part of our attention, I would say, I don't know, 25%. I don't know how that, what 25% is, but just a portion, just a small portion of my attention is anchored, right? And that's kind of like the anchor is just kind of something that I'm sensing in the corner of my mind, right? So it's right in the corner. It's not completely pushed out or erased, but it's just right in the corner. Okay. And I go back into the experience, of mind. And using part of the anchor, I just allow the space in my mind to open where everything is being held. I'm not reacting or fixating on anything, but I'm able to just sense everything at once. And that's where stillness can arise for us. And allow yourself to be drawn into that stillness. The stillness can feel very sweet, it can feel very seductive. And you begin to experience something, the stillness that's beneath or behind or resonating from the essence of phenomenal reality itself. So you have to figure out your own language to describe this, which is all makes this very difficult because we all come to this very differently. And another piece, and then I'll be quiet. And if you have a strong devotion practice, so at this moment, you can pray to your teacher, your guru, or a deity, or the lineage itself to guide you into the expression or to the experience into the experience of stillness itself. So at this moment, just praying, I turn my mind to my teachers, and maybe I just choose one teacher and say, please guide me into this deeper expression of stillness. And then you offer that trust to the teacher or the deity, whomever, to guide you. So again, keeping a little bit of intention on the anchor, submitting to the guidance of the teacher, the deity, and then slowly lean into the stillness. Let the stillness begin to hold you. I'm going to start transitioning out of the practice. So I'm going to ask us to come back and shift our attention down to the seat again. Noticing the weight of the body, making contact with the seat, and just grounding ourselves and back in this moment. Beginning to reawaken the body through some simple, slow movements, some stretching. If you would like, we'll just move to 3 cleansing breaths as well. So breathing deeply into the nose, breathing out of the mouth as we breathe out, releasing any tightness, tension, anything heavy that feels stuck. Shake it off. All right. And finally, dedicating the merit of this practice to the liberation of all beings. We all may be free as quickly as possible. All right. So thank you for your practice, and stay tuned for more information in the next couple of weeks on this new offering around meditation and so forth. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Happy spring, and I'll see some of you tomorrow night for our Medicine Buddha practice.